Hey guys, King of Charmanders here, and today I bring to you the best Kushala Weapons guide, the new ice meta. This video analyzes the Kushala Daora weapons. We will take a look at the Kushala weapons and analyze their damage compared to the other ice monster types. We will also take a look at specific weapons should they merit a deeper analysis. And this is not a build video, I will cover that in separate videos. That's going to be a lot of data to absorb, so we're just going to focus specifically on the weapons right now, then the armor, and then I'm going to go to the builds, okay? So, it's going to be a work in progress. I'm not going to dump it all at you at once, because, again, that's a lot of content to dump at you at once, and I just made a 40-minute Kushala guide video. First off, we're going to start off with the list of Kushala weapons. For the sword and shield, you have the Daora's Razor. For greatsword, we have the Daora's Decimator. That's a really cool name, by the way. For the hammer, we have Daora's Colossus. For the longsword, we have Daora's Raid. For the bow, we have Daora's Sagittarius. Okay, so it's Sagittarius in Greek mythology, so it's Daora's Sagittari. Yeah, Daora's Sagittari. That's the bow. Next up, for the light bowgun, we have Daora's Hornet. For the dual blades, we have Daora's Hook. For the lance, we have Daora's Fang. For the charge blade, we have Daora's Thwart. Okay, so that's Tortoise, right? Okay, Tortoise Thwartus. Daora's Thwartus. That has a nice ring to it, but at the same time, why is it so fancy? And last but not least, for the gun lance, we have Daora's Brigia. I think it's Brigia. Daora's Brigia. Okay, Daora's Brigia. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. Next up, we have the forge requirements for the Kushala weapons. All Kushala weapons will start off at grade 6. To forge them, you need 8 Daora Scales, which are rarity 3, 4 Elder Dragon Bloods, which are rarity 4, 2 Daora Tails, which are rarity 5, 1 Weapon Refining Parts, which are rarity 3, and 3,000 Zeni. Next, we have the Kushala weapon stats and equipment skills. The Kushala weapons have a raw base attack of 551, with their affinity at 0%. They have an elemental attack of 238, and their element is ice. And here are their equipment skills. So, interesting thing about them is that there are 2 skills. It's the first weapon to have 2 skills in it. It has the first skill, Hunter's Unity, which increases damage by 0, 3, 6, or 9% when there are 1, 2, 3, 4 players with this skill in the team. So, depending on how many hunters you have on the team, it increases your damage by a percentile. And it's 3% for every hunter that's using it. So it has to be you, the second person, the third person, and fourth person have to all be using this for this skill to activate and give you the respective damage increases. In addition, you get Windproof level 2, which at grade 6 reduces the effects of minor wind pressure. Next up, we actually have a slide that I actually needed information as well, because, you know, more research is always great. Because here are the Kushala weapon material requirements per grade level from grade 6 to grade 10. Here we have the Kushala material requirements to max out the Kushala weapons. As you see, it progressively requires more materials. However, it's important to note that Kushala weapons do not require rarity 1 or rarity 2 materials. This is nice considering how difficult the materials are to obtain. I remember when I was on Summer Game Fest and I was looking at all the weapons and armor because it was loaded on the phone I was using. I was like, wow, this is actually really good. So you don't really... Yeah, it's hard because they're only Elder Dragon Interception, but it's nice that they took away 2 rarities and not forcing you to have as many materials to upgrade and forge the Kushala weapons. However, it doesn't go to say if you are interested in maxing out a Kushala weapon, which I totally am going to do because, you know, I'm a giant whale and whales spend money and whales can spend money and do what they want with their money to get what they want in the game. And here are the requirements to max out a Kushala weapon from a new forge. You need 338 Daora Scales, which are rarity 3, 280 Elder Dragon Blood, which are rarity 4, 90 Daora Tails, which are rarity 5, 34 Daora Horns, which are rarity 6, and 25 weapon refining parts, which are rarity 3. Along with that, you need 245,000 Zenny. Alright, now my favorite part of the video, the data, because if your builds and your videos don't have data, then you're basically doing the hey, trust me bro type of deal, which you never want to do. You always want to make sure you have data to support your claims. Plus, that's how you get past college, you know. I have 3 degrees. If you're gonna get 3 degrees, guess what? You need to make references for all your papers, including your thesis. And for my thesis, for this video, I have the Kushala Weapons versus Legiana and Barioth. Here is overall damage comparison between the Kushala Weapons versus its other ice counterparts. These comparisons are all at grade 10-5, which grade 10-5 means grade 10, level 5 out of 5, and it's maxed out. And I will have a separate chapter where I dive into this data later in the video. For Kushala Weapons, we have at 10-5 a maxed out combined total, we have 3,071. For Legiana, we have 2,883. And for Barioth, despite the fact that you have that additional 20% affinity, it is 2,685. Next up, we're going to start out with the melee weapons. So here's the endgame melee ice build damage comparison, Kushala versus the rest. This data assumes grade 10-5 weapons and the best melee weapon build for Kushala melee weapon types with no driftstones. It's not fair if I put driftstones in here, we're going to do it without it. That's for another video. As we see here, Kushala clearly beats Legiana and Barioth as far as melee weapons go. While the damage comparisons don't seem like a lot, 10% is a huge difference if you take monster attack patterns and star strength into account. So because of monsters, their elemental weaknesses, etc., and the fact you want to kill them as fast as you possibly can, you want to use Kushala weapons. However, it is also important to note that Kushala weapons are the most difficult to max out because they come from Elder Dragon interceptions. You can't just mass genocide spree Kushalas like you would normal monsters during events. No, you need to go to Elder Dragon interceptions and take them out in Phase 1 and Phase 2. And now we have the endgame build damage analysis for ice melee weapons with no driftstones. As you see here, all the melee weapons will theoretically do the same amount of damage using their best endgame builds with no driftstones. However, this doesn't take into account the monster you are battling, its star strength, individual player skill, and the abilities of each weapon. Because I know y'all are gonna go hound me in the comments, be like, but King of Charmander is this, that. Okay, here's the thing. I get you have a favorite weapon. I get weapons do different things. Again, this is just the blanket damage theoretically, and it doesn't take all of those factors into account. However, the Kushala Daora's top optimal melee sets will do a theoretical practical damage assessment of 3,895. So they'll all practically do the same. Again, this is no driftstones because it's not fair if we have driftstones onto it. And again, that's for a separate video. Moving on, we have the ranged weapons. And we're going to start out with the first of the two, which is the light bowgun. This is the endgame ice light bowgun build damage comparison Kushala versus the rest. This data assumes grade 10-5 weapons and the best light bowgun builds for Kushala with no driftstones. And here's an important note, as latent power does not affect the entire battle, I will not be using it in this example, as it is a situational skill because it requires time to activate and does not provide consistent damage. The practical theoretical damage results are as follows. For Kushala, you have 3,426. For Barioth, it is 3,713. And last but not least, Legiana is 3,361. However, here are some important factors to consider. Kushala is the second best light bowgun overall as far as damage, but its ammo types have the best synergy because the ammo ranges are similar to maximize damage. You don't have to move in and out like the other two light bowguns, and it's very consistent with the other bowguns of its similar type, with freeze, piercing, and slicing. So again, ammo ranges are simpler, easier to use, and you don't have to do this weird pop and weave, go in, dart out like a boxer. As Barioth is the best light bowgun as far as damage, but has really weird ammo types requiring you to go in and out of range to maximize damage. The reason it does so much damage is because of its two powerful ammo types. You have spread ammo and pierce ammo. Spread, you have to be up close in order to use it, and after you're done using spread, you gotta back away a little bit to fire your piercing ice ammo, so you gotta dart in and out, which is really annoying. And Legiana is the worst light bowgun as far as damage, but also has really weird ammo types requiring you to go in and out of range to maximize damage. Legiana has spread and slicing ice ammo. So you gotta go in, you have to pop your freezing ammo, go in, blast it, and then you have to use your slicing ice ammo. So depending on the monster and what you're facing, it can be really weird to use Legiana light bowgun and Barioth light bowgun unless you're really used to it already. And now for the second ranged weapon, we have bows, and for the Kushala Ice Bow Damage comparison versus the rest. Due to the unique nature of bow weapon charge levels, I will analyze the damage comparison between Kushala and all other ice bow monster types. This data comparison is necessary because the Kushala bow is the newest super weapon as it has a charge level 3 with damage level 4, which allows you to do maximum damage with 2 charges instead of 3 with the bow. As you see the results, the Kushala bow does 23% more damage in comparison to Legiana and Barioth, and that's huge, that's enormous, that's incredible. And if you thought that data was insane, here's the endgame ice bow build damage comparison, Kushala versus the rest. This data assumes grade 10-5 weapons and the best bow build for ice bows with no driftstones. And here's an important note, as latent power does not affect the entire battle, I will not be using it in this example as it is a situational skill because it requires time to activate, and it does not provide consistent damage. It wouldn't be fair because latent power in a long drawn out battle of course is going to beat everything else most of the time just because of that additional boost. So it's not fair for consistent battle damage that's below that one, or below whatever second requirement it takes to activate. And the practical theoretical damage results are as follows. Kushala does 5,094 damage, followed by Legiana, which does 4,047 damage, and lastly, we have Barioth with 3,739 damage. And here are some important factors to consider when it comes to the ice bows. Kushala has spread level 4, which is a damage type, at charge level 3, which is only 2 charges for the bow, allowing it to fire at a faster timing versus the rest of the ice bows, which is why you see right here we have the weapon compensation. MHN.Quest actually factors that in with the time saved as compensation, and it increases the damage and calculates it, which is amazing. Kushala does 36% more damage than Legiana or Barioth. That is enormous. While Legiana still stands as the best budget option, Kushala blows it out of the water by having an enormous advantage of terms of damage, and mind you, this is not even a drift smelted build. The drift smelted build is insane, and I will have that in a separate video for the future. And now, drumroll, what is the best Kushala weapon to forge? Well, of course, the best Kushala Daora weapon is the Kushala bow, the Daora's Sagittari. Long ago, I predicted a new super weapon that is on par with the Black Diablos bow / Sarah Coilbender, the strongest raw bow in the game, and it is finally here. Obviously, it's raw versus elemental, but you know, the elemental damage is still insane, so I will be doing a separate video to go into a deeper analysis on the Kushala bow versus the Black Diablos bow. So for those of you that are really interested in it, and you're like, wow, I really want this thing, or the comparison, well, again, separate video on that later. And now that comes to the subject, should you forge the Kushala Ice Weapons? Well, unless it's the Kushala bow, there really is nothing special about the rest of the Kushala weapons. This is based off the data comparing the Kushala weapons versus Legiana and Barioth. The difference is truly very minimal. Legiana weapons are still the best accessible option for players who don't have a ton of time and resources to fight Kushala, so it isn't really a titanical difference. But I like it this way because if they was too overpowered, then of course the pay-to players or whales like myself would have way more, something that's just way more powerful than the average player could get, which isn't fair, and it's never been that way either. At least for the main series games. Even the equipment skills aren't great. Windproof only works for monsters that give off wind pressure, and Hunter's Unity requires other hunters to use a weapon with the same skill. So unless you're playing with friends, you have to bank on getting matched with players using Hunter's Unity. This will probably be useful in the future because my prediction for the next Elder Dragon is likely absolute. as per my interactions with Niantic at Summer Game Fest Playdays. But yeah, they're not really great. So if you don't have it, don't worry about it. Legiana weapons are still good for the average player. If you're starting off, if you're a beginner player and you need an ice weapon, go after Legiana. Don't go off and build Kushala right away. Unless you're, well, you can't do it right away now anyways, because now there are hunter requirements before you can enter 8, 9, and 10 star monsters. Hopefully this guide helps you decide what Kushala weapon to forge. Remember, as a mental health therapist, a mental health professional, one of the 0.07% of the United States that's actually able to treat and give mental health treatment and advice, do not let the fear of missing out, the FOMO, again, the fear of missing out, get to you. Elder Dragon interceptions are here to stay, and you'll eventually get what you want if you put the work into it. If you don't put the work into it, then guess what? You don't have credibility and probably won't get what you want. But if you do put the work into it, you will get credibility, the validation, and you will get that sweet grade 10.5 Kushala Daora weapon that you want. And I'm going after that bow for sure, because I'm getting it ASAP whenever, yeah, I'm going to grind hard for that, and I can't wait to show the video on using it and how the feeling of getting that final build will be as a whale. Please do me a huge favor, like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. Hopefully a lot of you have been asking for this video. Well, here you go. Here's the Kushala weapons, and the armor video will be coming out soon. Again, good luck on your grinds. Hopefully Kushala is dropping everything you need. All the rare E6s for all you going after it at this moment, and I will see y'all on the next video.